I'm dealing with a complex situation that's been a long time brewing, and now it's reaching a breaking point. I'm 36, married, and living in Ohio with my 5 kids. Originally from Houston, my childhood was shaken by my parents' divorce when I was 7, rooted in accusations of infidelity against my mum, which were never fully resolved. My father, suspecting my younger sister wasn't his, left the family but financially supported me, paying for my schooling but not for my sisters. This differential treatment caused a rift that has lasted decades. As years passed, my father and I reconnected and grew close, a bond that didn't sit well with my mum, especially after he named me the sole heir to his $710,000 trust money. Since his passing, my relationship with my mum and sister has been strained further by their financial expectations of me. Despite their limited incomes, my mum works as a shopping cart attendant and my sister in bakery sales. They've grown increasingly reliant on me. My financial assistance began with small sums and escalated as my own income grew, fueled by a sense of familial obligation. Recently, my mom reached out with a request to money a $910,000 renovation for our family home, citing severe disrepair. The call was unexpected and placed me in an awkward position, knowing she was eyeing my inheritance for this. I refused, leading to a heated conversation that left our relationship on thin ice. Adding to this, my sister was getting married, and my mum secretly used my money to money her lavish wedding. I discovered this misuse and froze the account, causing a big commotion. Now, I'm contemplating cutting financial ties, which is tough because it could push them into further hardship. It's a harsh step, but I'm exhausted from being taken advantage of. This dilemma weighs heavily on me as I try to balance my own family's needs with the guilt and responsibility I feel towards my mum and sister. I'm torn between my sense of duty and the need to protect my own financial stability. We were discussing the trust money, and I initially agreed to lend up to $90,000. In hindsight, it was a hasty decision to offer such a large amount without much thought. Despite my initial reluctance, once I made the commitment, I felt obligated to follow through. My husband suggested a prudent approach: lend the money in installments and assess the progress of the renovations at my mother's house before releasing further money. I informed my mum of our plan to distribute the $90,000 in portions. To facilitate this, I reactivated an old bank account in Houston, transferring the first installment of $90,000 into it and giving my mum access. My mum questioned why I hadn't transferred the money directly into her account. I came up with a weak excuse, although the strategy was my husband's idea. I was hopeful but not confident that she would repay the money. 3 months into the arrangement, I had transferred a total of $20,000. It was becoming clear that their kindness was driven by financial interest. I felt deeply misled by their deceit just to extract money from me. Adding to the confusion, I discovered through a friend, whose husband is a wedding planner, that my sister was planning a lavish wedding. It wasn't just any wedding, it was described as a grand affair expected to cost around $90,000. I was hurt, not only by being excluded from the guest list of 210 people, but also by learning about the wedding through an outsider. I checked the bank account where I had been sending money for what I thought was home renovation. It was empty. When I confronted my mum, she claimed that the renovation was still pending, despite having hired a company. Her lies were becoming too much to handle. After realizing the extent of the deceit, that the money S meant for medical and renovation needs were diverted to money my sister's extravagant wedding, I decided to stop all financial support. I ignored their calls and texts. Regardless of earning more or inheriting more from our father, I could no longer justify supporting their dishonesty. I resolved to protect myself from further manipulation and false pretenses. It was a painful decision, but necessary to preserve my well-being and financial integrity. During a recent conflict about trust money, my mum reached out to my husband after I stopped responding to her attempts to contact me. I had previously warned my husband not to engage with her or any family calls, but he ended up answering anyway. During their conversation, my mum tearfully complained that I had abandoned them mid-renovation. breaking my promise to help financially. My husband, in the heat of the moment, revealed that I was aware they had misused the monies for my sister's extravagant wedding instead of the house repairs, which was why I had stopped the financial support. This slip-up by my husband infuriated me because I had wanted them to feel the repercussions of their deceit on their own. He also accidentally told her about how we knew the money for her supposed knee surgery was redirected to home repairs. After this, my phone was flooded with my mum's apologies. She claimed there had been a misunderstanding, that she had taken a loan from someone else for the repairs and was using my money to pay it back. It was hard to believe anything she said at this point. Exasperated, I finally agreed to talk to her, but only if she was ready to be completely honest. She admitted over the phone that they had indeed planned to finance my sister's lavish wedding by deceitfully asking me for renovation money. They chose this strategy because they thought I wouldn't find out, given my absence from Houston and lack of local contacts. When I pressed her about not simply asking for wedding monies directly, she claimed my sister had been against the idea, not wanting to feel indebted to me. During our call, I confronted her about using the money from her knee surgery money to fix up the house. She confessed that the house needed urgent repairs before my sister's in-laws visited, and in a panic, she fabricated the story about needing a knee surgery. Although I tried to remain composed during the call, I was deeply hurt inside. It pained me to realize how my own family could manipulate me for financial gain, exploiting my emotions. After hearing the full extent of their deceit, I ended the call and cried for hours, reminiscent of the grief I felt during my father's passing. He had always seemed like the only person who truly cared for me. A few days later, my mum left a voicemail asking for the remaining money to continue with the wedding preparations, still showing no remorse. Her callousness pushed me to block both her and my sister's numbers. I warned my husband sternly not to engage with them any further, threatening him with consequences if he disobeyed. Meanwhile, my aunt, who lives near my mum, mentioned that the wedding plans were struggling without my financial support. I felt conflicted. On one hand, I was saddened by my role in potentially spoiling my sister's wedding, but on the other, I felt justified in protecting myself from further exploitation. On the wedding day, my mum's last message declared she was disowning me, a statement that left me devastated. Despite the accusations of being cruel and selfish, I knew I had to stand by my decision to cut them off financially. My friend, whose husband was involved in planning the wedding, informed me that the event might be cancelled due to unpaid bills. She inquired if I would help, but I decided against it, choosing instead to stand firm and not contribute further to a facade maintained by deceit. I found myself recalling the painful moment when I listened to my mother's last voicemail, announcing she had disowned me. I wondered why I had exerted so much effort for them when the end result was rejection. Perhaps my responses weren't always perfect, but they were provoked by their hurtful actions. To distract myself and the kids, I turned off my phone and we spent the day out. The next day, my friend called, upset about the damage the recent wedding had done to her husband's reputation. Apparently, on the wedding day, my mom and sister had desperately asked her husband to pull together basic arrangements and promised an additional $30,000 on top of the already paid $40,000, which just covered the venue. Despite his efforts to provide decent food and decor, the wedding was poorly received by the guests and the groom's family, leading to harsh criticism. In a scramble to deflect blame, my sister accused the wedding planner of ruining everything, a sentiment echoed by others. My friend's husband, though angry, stayed silent to protect my sister's future at my mother's request, bearing the blame himself. Yet, the promised additional payment was never made. Hearing about the ordeal made me feel a deep embarrassment for my family. I remained silent as my friend vented, not wishing to add to the drama. She reassured me that she didn't blame me, but simply needed to express her frustrations. Despite my own embarrassment, my husband pointed out that the family had brought this upon themselves by living beyond their means to impress others. He reassured me that distancing ourselves from their deceit was for the best, and I couldn't help but see the truth in his words. Now, onto the next troubling revelation. Recently, after a night of drinking, my husband confessed his love for my sister. Although he was intoxicated, his words shook me. We had spent a pleasant evening drinking wine and chatting after a family dinner, but his unexpected declaration left me stunned. The next morning, sober and silent, I pondered his words, unsure if they were just drunken ramblings or if they held a deeper truth. My sister, who had always been the modest type, had transformed herself over the past year, losing weight and dressing strikingly for the dinner. It was hard to ignore how stunning she looked, and perhaps in his inebriated state, my husband's true feelings had surfaced. Now, I'm left to decide how to address his confession. Should I confront him once he's sober, or dismiss it as nothing more than a drunken mistake? This dilemma is compounded by the old adage that a drunk mind speaks sober thoughts, leaving me to wonder about the future of our relationship and whether I could ever feel comfortable with him around my sister again. When people's inhibitions are lowered, especially in a state of inebriation, their emotions can often merge. This blending might lead some to mistake their lust for someone as actual love. This is something you might be experiencing, and it certainly warrants a serious, in-depth discussion with your partner. Without this conversation, moving forward in your relationship could prove very challenging. From personal experience, I can tell you that even if this incident is chalked up to mere lust, it might still cast a long shadow over your feelings and relationship. If there's a desire from both sides to salvage the relationship, I would strongly recommend both couples counselling and individual therapy to support a healthy progression together. I genuinely wish you the best and hope for a brighter future for you both. A similar thing happened to me once. My ex mistakenly professed his love for my twin sister while intending to address me. Despite his excuses, it became clear he had feelings for her and was close to me primarily to be near her. Eventually, my sister even started dating him, which was a hard pill to swallow, considering our competitive upbringing and complicated family dynamics. It's critical to have that heart-to-heart with your husband sooner rather than later. If he's behaving as if nothing happened, you might wonder if he even remembers his words. But remember, drunk words are sober thoughts. If you've noticed any previous behaviours that made you uneasy about his interactions with your sister, those need to be addressed. Ask him directly, face-to-face, about his feelings. His immediate reaction will likely reveal a lot about his true emotions. My husband always had a fondness for my family, especially my sister, who has been my closest ally and friend. We do a lot together as families, so his affection wasn't out of the ordinary. If he had simply said, "I love her," in a casual manner, it might have been dismissed as a drunken slip. But the way he expressed his feelings left little room for doubt. It was a clear, heartfelt declaration, not just idle, drunk chatter. Considering all this, confronting him directly and observing his reaction will be crucial. This confrontation will help clarify whether his declaration was a serious admission of deeper feelings or just a misguided comment in a moment of lowered inhibitions. That night, after my sister and her husband had left and we continued drinking, I confronted my husband about the love declaration he made. Surprisingly, he wasn't shocked or surprised by what he had said, only that he couldn't recall saying it. When I probed whether he had feelings for my sister before we started drinking, he admitted that he had always thought highly of her because she is kind and warm-hearted. He mentioned that her recent weight loss seemed to boost her confidence, making her appear even more beautiful, and confessed that his drunken self might have found her attractive. He tried to rationalize his thoughts by saying it's natural for people to find others attractive, and that his remarks were just a reflection of that momentary feeling. He reassured me that, despite her beauty and the affection he holds for her, I am his wife and the mother of his children, and his commitment is to me. However, he became defensive when I pushed with hypothetical scenarios about choosing between us if circumstances were different. He expressed frustration over what he called hypothetical games, arguing they lead to unnecessary conflicts over things that don't matter. After calming down, he reiterated his love for me, emphasizing that I shouldn't overthink his drunken ramblings. Despite his reassurances, I can't help but feel troubled. The thought of him possibly viewing me as a surrogate for his feelings towards my sister gnaws at me. It's daunting to imagine sharing intimate moments with him again, fearing my mind might wander to comparisons or doubt his sincerity. The proximity to my sister makes it even harder. We live just 5 minutes apart, and I often catch myself scrutinizing every interaction he has with her. He always speaks of her fondly, which makes me question whether he feels the same enthusiasm towards me. These thoughts have planted seeds of distrust and insecurity that are hard to shake off. After sharing my concerns and reading comments from others in similar situations, I've realized the importance of seeking therapy. It's clear that this issue is too complex to navigate alone. My husband has now acknowledged his feelings for my sister were more than fleeting and have been recurring over the years. He's promised that they've never been acted upon and assured me of his love and commitment to our life together. We've decided to start couples counselling to address these issues comprehensively. Moreover, he's agreed to give me space by not joining me anymore when I hang out with my sister. This arrangement might help me process everything without the added pressure of his presence. Although it's a relief to have these open discussions and plans for counselling, I know the journey to rebuild trust and ensure our relationship remains strong will be challenging. The thoughts of his past feelings might always linger, but I'm committed to working through this, hoping that with professional help and honest communication, we can find a way to move forward together.